how do you carve out time to spend with your spouse when you have a new baby? Hey everybody, it's Allison, Prep Dish founder. I'm here to help you have a happier, healthier mealtime. And today I'm talking date nights. This is something that was totally not even on my radar until baby came along. Me and my husband are both entrepreneurs. We work from home. So I feel like until baby, we spent a lot of time together. And I know people talked about date nights, and sure, we had them, but it was not something I was intentional about because we just kind of naturally ended up spending time together. Of course, when Ivan entered the picture, that all changed. So today I want to just talk through some of the top strategies that have really helped us navigate that and still spend time together as well as a family, which obviously is really important. That's something at Prep Dish. We talk a lot about time and how being more efficient with your meals can help you have more of that family time, but it can also help you have more time for, time with your spouse. The key for that with us has been our calendars. So coming up with a system that really keeps us on the same page. So there's a few pieces here. One is that, so I use Google Calendar. I think a lot of the tips that I'm going to talk about today, you could do with whatever calendar that you use. This is an online calendar though, so probably better with that, but you could even do it with probably a pen and paper calendar. But the top thing was having a shared one. So in Google, you can overlay and see multiple calendars at the same time and kind of click or unclick which ones you're viewing. So we have one that's a shared calendar that's any appointment that we have that's together, or any family event. We will schedule a date night. That's what I'm talking about today. So making sure those are on the calendar, and even just silly things like we'd say, hey, we're gonna go on a hike this weekend. Oftentimes we'll put it on the calendar so we both remember that we've talked about it, and it's not 1 o'clock on Saturday and I'm dressed and ready for the hike and my husband's like, what are we doing? So, it really helps to keep us on the same page by using the shared calendar. And then we both have our individual calendars, which are more work calendars for the most part. And we do have access to the other person's calendar. And this was actually the result of conflict over lunchtime. So because we both work from home, we have lunch together, but oftentimes my husband will be on a call and not able to make lunch. And we would just miscommunicate about that and butt heads on it. So what we started doing is, because I have access to his work calendar, I don't have to bother him if he's on a call and say, hey, are you joining for lunch? I can just look and say, I can see he's clearly not going to join because he has a conflict today. So that helped to that piece. It's a way of communicating without having to interrupt constantly, because I could just look at the calendar versus interrupting. And kind of even more a work from home. So I don't know if any of you work from home, especially with a spouse or significant other. There's just some things you have to figure out in terms of boundaries and how to communicate while you're working. So the calendar has helped us immensely in this. Another kind of tip in terms of our calendaring is, I don't know if calendaring is a word, but I'm gonna use it. So when we do our calendaring, we always include drive time. For us, this is more significant than for a lot of people probably, because we live in the country. A lot of our appointments are in Austin, which is about an hour away. So we totally have to put in that hour drive time, because otherwise if you have a call, you're not gonna be, we can't take it in the car because we have certain parts where we don't have reception, but there's a lot of things that you're not gonna wanna be doing during that drive time. So making sure, even if it's 15-minute drive, you're gonna wanna put that on your calendar, because it's easy to overbook and end up with something on the calendar that conflicts with a drive time to get to an in-person appointment. So including that drive time has been really important for us when we're looking at our calendar. So those are kind of the strategies we've used for the calendar, but the piece that's really brought it all together and helped this work is having a weekly meeting where we go over everything that's on there. So for us, this is Sunday afternoon. We just know on Sundays we are gonna meet to go over the upcoming week and really 2 weeks kind of in depth. So we look at the next 2 weeks in depth, and then we will at a glance look at a few months out, especially if a trip came up, if there was a work travel thing that came up or something like that, or even an evening thing where I know okay, I want to go to this evening thing, so I'm going to need Brooke's help with Ivan. And so just making sure we're not like double booking and that we can kind of keep an eye out for anything like that. So reviewing everything in advance. And then kind of back to the topic at hand, this can help me to see, do we have any date nights scheduled? Do we have any trips into town or anything that we're doing already? Like maybe there's an event or a party. We go to entrepreneur events and sometimes we kind of count those as date night, or we'll like go for a drink before the event. But when we're reviewing the calendar, this is definitely something we keep in mind. We don't have a strict set number of days. So it's not like, oh, we have to do once a week. We don't do once a week, but we, over the course of a month, it's usually about 2. So if we see that we're missing something, this is the time where we can say, okay, there's nothing on the calendar for the 2 of us. Like, is there something we could fit in this week? And what is that going to look like? Initially, that was mainly just going to dinners. To me, that's kind of, I enjoy that for a date night. But as we've come through this year, we've kind of had to figure out other ways as well. And something that came up, and this was kind of by accident, and that was Brooke wasn't feeling well. So for us, leaving the house is really important because we have the baby, but we also have an au pair, which is awesome, but it's like having a teenage daughter. So, she eats all of our dinners with us. So for us, a lot of time, meal time, it's not really a date night because you're not having alone time, just the 2 of you. And Ivan's there too. I mean, I think sometimes it probably wouldn't be that different because he's not, but the focus is definitely on him and not on each other. So just for us, it's been really this year figuring out how do we get out of the house, just the 2 of us, to kind of have that time to connect. But the time that I was referencing and then kind of got off track. So one time Brooke was feeling a little under the weather and he was already in town. He didn't want to come back home and then leave again. So rather than cancel date night, he just brought in takeout and we waited. We had dinner with the family and then afterwards we pulled out our takeout and had like a second dinner that was our technical date night. And that worked really well. I didn't have to do dishes and prepare anything for us other than the baby, and it really worked out well. And to me, I'm like, oh, I guess I kind of forget that sometimes I can just do takeout and have that meal like after baby and use that as our date night. Other one that's worked out, it's been my favorite one all year. And that was one where we'd been going into town a lot that week and we'd had a date scheduled for the weekend. And I was like, neither of us really wanted to leave. Sometimes, we're out in the country and we just want to stay home, but we knew that we needed to have that time to connect. So what we came up with, I said, well, why don't we do a picnic? It was supposed to be a gorgeous weekend. And so we packed up some little snacks and a bottle of wine and took those out to our backyard and just had some alone time there. And it really was probably my favorite date of the year because, it hit all the check marks in terms of it was just the 2 of us. Because it was kind of more snacks, I wasn't having to cook or do dishes. And the best part is it was really intimate. There's no waiter or other people sitting around at a restaurant. So we really got some time to just spend together. And it made me realize that I should be including picnics as part of my date night. So if you've not done that, highly recommend it. And even if it's cold, you can do picnics inside. So maybe finding a spot in the house where you can lay down a blanket and have a fun little, date night picnic is something I highly recommend. We really enjoyed that piece of it. And then something else that we use a lot so we use the calendar, but then we also use Trello for a lot of family management, like management of contractors and all of that. So if that's something you'd want to hear more about, just let me know in the comments, because I think that would be like its whole video is how we use Trello to manage house projects and contractors and everything. So if you wanted that, just let me know. And then in terms of like the timepiece, I have a few other videos that you should watch. So one of them is how I stayed sane after baby. So 10 things that helped me stay sane. The other video that you'll want to check out is I did one on 3 systems for better connection. And these are 3 ways that I stayed connected post baby. So check that out. I've linked both of these videos. That's all I have for you today.